Welcome to the Franchise Founders Podcast, where you'll hear right from the source how people like you have been able to buy and build their businesses across different industries all over the country. Dan Claps is the co-founder of Career Transition Leads, Nurture Assist, and Find a Business Online. Christian Dadulak is a franchise consultant with Find a Business Online, and he heads up business development for Career Transition Leads and Nurture Assist. He also runs an independent franchise consulting business, The Franchise Guys. Together, they formed relationships with hundreds of successful business owners who are excited to share their stories with you. Now here are your hosts, Dan and Christian.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Franchise Founders Podcast, where we talk with franchise founders and amazing people from the franchise industry and get their insights on what it takes to be a successful franchise owner, to succeed in the franchise industry, and get some stories of inspiration on what it takes to really succeed in business. So today we have with us Monique Hymel. I hope I said that right. And you know, she's here today to talk about three different brands that she represents. One of them being Dadulak. That was the first brand that they were associated with, and then Temperature Pro as well as Plumbing Pro. Monique, welcome. Really appreciate that you're taking the time out to speak to us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. A lot of things. System Ford America is our parent company. System Ford America was developed after Dadulak, actually. Mm-hmm. When Don Marks, our CEO, came to meet with the founders of Dadulak, which are two former police officers, way back 26 years ago, when car doors were a completely different thing, when you could use a Slim Jim and just get in and out, and the sheriff's department officer could let you in and out of your car. Well, 26 years ago, cars started to change, and all kinds of electronics and all kinds of things were being put indoors. So therefore, that Slim Jim was tearing people's cars up. And what happens is that in the sheriff's department, you get elected. You tear people's cars up, you don't get votes. So that's where they saw the need. That's where it was born. And it started as car door unlocking and roadside assistance. And it's grown into the empire builder brand that it is today after 26 years of awarding franchises to franchisees. So Dadulak is very diverse. It started out with, as you say, a chuck and a truck, to empire builders and everything in between. So, and then when Don Marks came on as CEO 16 years ago, almost 17 years ago, he said, "You guys are the Wal-Mart to Locksmithing." And he says, normally he would consult with them, pay me my fee and go about his way. They offered him partnership and he took it and he stayed. And now Lafayette, Louisiana has been his home since. Don Marks has about 35, almost 40 years in franchise development. In our corporate office, if you add all of our franchise development experience, you probably have about 150 years with System Ford America. So wow. That's a lot of experience underneath one roof. So Dadulak is in 3/4 of the United States and Canada. We still have territory available, so always do a territory check no matter what. I had to put that one in there. Temperature Pro was founded 8 years ago. Some of our national accounts would say, "Hey, you don't know anybody that does HVAC, do you?" Well, Don Marks kept getting that question. So he's like, "Well, maybe I need to look into this." So he did. And he found somebody here locally in Lafayette, Louisiana, that had no experience in HVAC, that bought an HVAC company 11 years prior. So therefore, Don became a member of that organization as well. And we have Lee's Temperature Pro here in Lafayette, Louisiana. And Temperature Pro is an HVAC franchise, but it's not what you think. We don't want a franchisee that's going to go out there and turn wrenches and install HVAC units. This is an executive model. We want CEOs, engineers, anybody from corporate America, marketing, sales, you name it, that can build a brand, that can motivate a team and build the business. And the most important thing, follow policy, process, and procedures. Every brand out there in the country in the world that's a franchise has an operations manual. Read it, use it. That's why franchising works. Guys, that was Monique, the real Monique you get. That's no cutting corners. The same thing with Plumbing Pro. Plumbing Pro mirrors Temperature Pro in a lot of ways as far as the service industry. So therefore, again, we're not looking for anybody to go out there with a shovel or or anything like, can you build a business? Can you build a brand? And that's what's happening with corporate America today. So many people have been let go and things like that because of COVID. Because of COVID, people said, well, am I going to be able to go back to my job? So they've reached out, and franchising is booming more than it ever has been. I mean, I've been here for 10 years doing this. So, and awarding all 3 brands. So like I said, franchise is booming right now, and you keep hearing the same story over and over again from candidates and every day that, they want to do something for themselves. They're not ready to retire yet. And with franchising, what I find is that somebody's already fell down and skinned their knees and figured out what to do and what not to do. And that's where franchising comes in, because there's already a model laid out for you, a system laid out for you to be able to do things, to be able to achieve, to make the money you want to make and live how you want to live. We do only service brands.
Why is that?
Because it's easier, it's faster. It's you're able to control things from wherever you are if you have the right operational software. Know what your employees are doing and where they're at all times. Big brother's
Exactly.
always looking. So everything pretty much that, for instance, like Pop-A-Lock, anything that needs to be done for Pop-A-Lock is in that van, that's in that vehicle. There's no need for brick or mortar or build out. So making the margins larger. The same thing with Plumbing Pro. Not a lot of heavy equipment. It's all on the truck already. So therefore, the margins are larger with Plumbing Pro than they are actually with HVAC, because HVAC, it is heavy equipment.
Right. So it's a quicker ramp up. You get into business. I would imagine pound for pound versus a brick and mortar type franchise, it's an easier entrance. Am I wrong?
Ramp up. You control your ramp up when it's a service industry business. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. So that's one of the things. The other is about these 3 brands, and about Don Marks, our CEO, is that if it does not have a competitive strategic advantage, we won't touch it. And what that means in layman's terms is we do what others can't or won't. And that's the reason why we can come into a market and dominate.
Absolutely. So what would you say is that key differentiator, that key strategic advantage for the 3 different brands? I mean, what is the main differentiator there?
One thing, as far as Pop-A-Lock is concerned, we're full service security. People used to think Pop-A-Lock was car door locking and roadside assistance. People had no idea that other than physical security, we do all types of security. Homes, businesses, rekeying safes, you name it. There's so many streams of revenue when it comes to Pop-A-Lock, it's unbelievable. As far as Temperature Pro, the forefront of everybody's mind today is clean air quality. There were certain municipalities across the country when we were on lockdown that could not open back up when it came to businesses like dentist offices, daycare centers, gyms, and things like that, unless they had up-to-date EPA regulated, up to code, air scrubbers and ultraviolet lights, things like that. 0 gravity rooms in hospitals and doctor suites. So it changed the industry completely overnight. As far as plumbing, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, wow, that's kind of a pretty dramatic change.
Franchisees didn't slow down one bit. It actually ramped them up. And basically, You know, these three businesses, we are Amazon proof, we're wage proof, we're recession proof, and we are COVID proof. We are an essential business, all three of our brands. So I could say that makes us different on all three levels.
Definitely. When you say wage proof, can you expand on that a little bit and what you mean by that?
You know what's going on out there in the country? People's wanting $15 an hour to flip a burger.
Right.
Shoot, I'll go flip a burger for $15 an hour.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Well, anyway.
Right. But the labor market is tough and it's competitive right now.
It's competitive. And the other thing is that we know that unemployment is what it is, has been for the past 2 years. And people that work in these types of fields, the service industry that have certifications, they had to get certifications and license to be able to do this type of work. They're not your minimum wage type worker. So that's what makes us wage proof.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So it's easy to recruit and
Why
retain.
the franchisees out there building the brand and building the business to make sure the phone rings, your technical side of the team is out there running it on the technical side. For instance, our home office, when it comes to Temperature Pro, we find your lead technician for you. That person goes through a 3-step interview process, 2 with operations, 1 with marketing. And every candidate says, why with marketing? That's exactly why marketing needs to be involved. If you have to ask me, that's exactly why marketing has to be involved. Because if they're your lead person out in the field and they don't know how marketing works, how are they going to sell? Everybody on your team is selling. So therefore, they go through a 3-step interview process. Then they go through the 4th with the actual franchisee, and the franchisee chooses who they want. We also find your license qualifiers for you, where there are states that they're like, oh, we're tapped out on license, can't get any more license until somebody gives up with their license or they, go somewhere else. There's usually mom and pops out there that have kept their license alive for whatever reason in HVAC and plumbing, to help family out, do some side jobs here or there, and they rent their licenses out. And there's a list of them, and we have access to those. So that's how we find our license qualifiers for our franchisees. The franchisees don't have to be licensed.
That's wonderful. That allows them to get into the business a lot easier, I would imagine.
Do everything a little bit faster.
Right. Well, sometimes, clients that find a business online, we'll get questions from them about, well, why do I need a franchise? Why should I pay the franchise fee and a royalty to get into an HVAC business or, a locksmithing business or whatever the case is, plumbing business? Couldn't I just do that on my own? So what would you say to those people?
Do you have experience doing any of those things?
And they would probably say no.
Doing those things. Because if you can't get out there and figure out why a pipe is cracked or why your hot water heater isn't heating the water, or I mean that's common sense. Something's not, pilot's not coming on, burner's not coming on, one of those things. But the thing is when we say no experience, we don't want you to have experience and go out there and go do that, because that's not what this brand is about. If you were going to do something you knew, you'd stay doing what you're doing now, or you continue in a business that you already know. The reason franchising is, like I said, we've skinned our knees. Temperature Pro today is not Temperature Pro it was 8 years ago. Definitely Pop-A-Lock today is not Pop-A-Lock it was 26 years ago. And franchises evolve. We learn from our franchisees as well. That's why we have system-wide calls with our franchisees, so we can share our experiences so that other people may be having problems in one area can help another. Franchising it's a big team from the get-go. From the time of the introduction of the candidate to the signing of the franchise agreement, all the way through the next 10 years of that franchise agreement, we're a team. And when it's time for renewal, you're in good standings, you renew. Here, there's no additional franchise fee for a good franchisee being a good franchisee. We renew your franchise agreement and we continue that relationship for another 10 years.
That's huge. That's a big deal.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Well, what's interesting to me that you just said was the fact that at these different brands, you're all willing to take feedback from the franchisees. I think a common misconception sometimes can be when people are thinking about franchising, they'll think about a lot of the, those empire brands that are super built out. You think of McDonald's, you think of Subway, and they think it's super corporatist and bureaucratic, and they think it's probably my way or the highway, not a whole lot of wiggle room to do, to kind of introduce new ideas. And they would feel that maybe the corporate team is not going to really consider feedback from them. So I think that's really, really interesting that you are willing to listen to the franchisees. And so, can you dispel that myth a little bit? I mean, how much feedback do you take from the franchisees, and when is it, when would you consider it and when wouldn't you consider it as much?
I'm going to put it this way. Our CEO is a franchisee of 2 of the brands in multiple locations, because if you get ready to bake a cookie, you've got to know what ingredients are in it. And if you don't, you're not going to bake that cookie. So he thinks in the frame of mind as a franchisee, not just as CEO. So therefore, that's how our corporate offices ran, because there is no I in team. Every last one of our franchisees are part of our team, and they may come up with an idea that we didn't think of, or they could help another franchisee that's going through the same thing that nobody else is going through. So, and that's one of the greatest things about awarding exclusive territory to me, because I was a Quiznos franchisee. I had 6 Quiznos from Corpus Christi, Texas to San Antonio, Texas. And what you're talking about, corporate America, and it's their way or the highway, that's exactly the way it was. It was so refreshing when I walked in here 10 years ago, and it was like, what do you mean they get a say? But it's their business, but Don is the type of person, and he doesn't micromanage. You've got to be very motivated to do what we do here at System Forward America. Nobody gets micromanaged. All he cares about is results, and that we place the right franchisees in our system.
Love that. So it sounds like what you're saying is cultural fit is important, and really before signing any sort of franchise agreement, it's important to make sure that you really understand the company culture, what they're going to expect from you, how they're going to treat you, validate that with franchisees when you speak to them in the systems, and make sure that, because again, not every franchise is created equal. You do have the more bureaucratic brands, but you also have ones that are more willing to listen to you and accept feedback and to operate as a team as opposed to a dictatorship in many ways.
Right. I totally agree. Like I said, I've been on both sides of the fence. So, I've started businesses from scratch, and then I've been a franchisee. I'll be a franchisee any day. Any day.
And what's the big reason? I mean, you've explained about that a little bit, but why franchising? Why would you choose franchising any day versus starting an independent business?
Because I can pick up a phone right here when I don't have the answer and get it. It's as simple as that. I don't have to lay awake at night trying to figure out. Sometimes it's just the simplest things. All I have to do is pick up the phone. If that person can't answer me, somebody on that team can.
Absolutely.
So, and it's all about the support. For me, it's all about the support.
Of course. And how helpful has it been to have a network of other franchisees that you can, network with and pick their brains and talk to them about best business practices, things they're doing that's working, and those sorts of things? How helpful has that been for your franchise owners? And
that is very helpful. And it's really, it's funny because it's different with each brand. See,
Right.
Plumbing Pro, I've awarded 2, but they're not open yet. Because the same 2 candidates took a Temperature Pro as well. So they decided to open Temperature Pro because it was season. It was the season for it. So, but the Temperature Pro franchisee and the Pop-A-Lot franchisee, they're night apples and oranges. You know, Pop-A-Lot is a little more laid back, easygoing, you know, where the Temperature Pro franchisee is a little more buttoned up.
Absolutely.
And what future franchisees don't understand is the biggest part of my job is assessing them to make sure they're going to be a good fit for our brand so that they can be successful.
Right.
That's my end result at the end of the day.
Right. So they can't just buy a franchise. You're vetting them just as much as they're vetting you.
No. Those days are over. That's how franchises fail.
Exactly. You're not just looking to give territory, especially prime territory, away to just anybody. You want to make sure that they really are the right fit. They have the right backgrounds, the right skills, the right motivation, the right mindset, and they're ultimately a good fit for the company culture.
Right. And if you can't talk to people, you can't be in one of our systems. If you cannot talk to people, you have to have a business development manager, and you just blew your capital budget for the first 12 months of operation. You've got to be able to talk. You don't have to be a salesperson, because I didn't think I was a salesperson 10 years ago when I came to work here. 2 weeks after I was here, I was an administrative assistant. That's what I was hired as. And Don Mark said, "You're not an administrative assistant." And I said, "Oh God, I'm going to lose this job." And he says, "You're a natural born salesperson." And he sent me away for franchise sales training. And here I am 10 years later, still knocking them out the park.
Love that. That's fantastic. Well, I know we're brushing up against the top of the or the end of the conversation here, our time limit, but I did want to ask you, is there any parting wisdom or advice or anything you'd like to share with anyone that's listening, that's maybe considering buying a franchise, or maybe they're a franchisor and they're, looking for, how to find the new franchisees, or anything about your brands you'd like to share, anything at all, whatever you'd like to leave us with, go ahead.
I'd like the candidate that's listening to this to understand that every franchisor should have policy, processes, and procedures. The process that you're going to go through in discovery is very important in the way it's laid out. And the reason for that is for you to get what you need when you need it in that process. So when you try to go around and speak to franchisees before it's time to speak to franchisees, you don't know what you don't know yet. So follow your coach, which is whoever brings you to whatever brand you're going to, and follow the process. And if you come to me looking at one of my franchises, I'm going to tell you what the process is on the very first call. And then I'm going to back it up with an email that's got a letter in it that tells you what the process is. So that way it makes it more simple for you as you go along this 4 to 5 week period. So it's one of the other important thing is, if you are serious about franchising and you're going to do it within a 3 to 6 month time period, just like you go get pre-qualified for a house, get pre-qualified for 401k rollover or SBA loan, because if things are running slow. If you're ready to get out there and start making money, whether it's my brand or anybody else's, get pre-qualified. It's going to help you in the end, and it's going to make life a lot easier.
Excellent. That's really excellent advice.
Monique Hymel. I am the Senior Executive of Franchise Development for System Forward America, and I represent Pop-A-Lot, Temperature Pro, and Plumbing Pro, and more brands to come in the future. As long as Don Marks rolls them out, I'm going to keep awarding them.
Love it. Well, really appreciate you coming on, Monique, and it's been such a great opportunity to talk to you, learn about the different brands, and we really appreciate your advice on how to succeed in the franchise industry and maybe dispel some of the myths that are out there. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and I look to see you soon. Let's
Absolutely. We will. Sounds great. So thanks everyone so much for coming on again. I'm your host, Christian Dadulak. If you'd like more information on how to find and get matched to the right franchise for you, at findabusinessonline.com, we have a team of consultants that are ready to help you with that. It doesn't cost you a dime to work with us. Reach out and we can definitely help you out with that. Or if you're a franchisor and you're interested in getting some help with leads and finding new franchisees, you can go to nurtureassist.com and we'd be happy to help you out with that as well. So thanks again, Monique. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time.